We never ever focus on the small.
In recent weeks, East Sepik Governor Allan has been vocal about the delay in the release and drawdown of EU grant funding valued at around 340 million Kina for the Sepik region. On FM 100 Talkback this week, Governor Bird was disappointed at the manner in which the Ministry and Department of National Planning were perceived to have been delaying the drawdown of this funding, the majority of which was to have been for cocoa and vanilla farmers in the Sepik region.
We never ever focus on the smallholder farmer, the rural farmers. Now, East Sepik and West Sepik has about 20,000 vanilla farmers. We have about 10,000 fishermen and women on the Sepik River and on the coast. And we have 138,000 registered cocoa farmers. This program is going to support all those little farmers. This is the big difference. And the thing I find strange and where a lot of the policymakers misunderstand is that this lemblo legally man merilo place. And we've never tried this anywhere in PNG. We've never tried this anywhere in the South Pacific. So it's an absolutely amazing opportunity to try something with small producers.
Among his concerns, that if PNG would not complete negotiations with the EU to draw down funding by June the 30th, PNG would miss out altogether on this opportunity to fund the critical agriculture sector.
East Sepik provincial government established over 300 cocoa nurseries in readiness for the EU program. That's with these 300 plus budwood nurseries, we can produce 6 million clones annually. The entire country only has a capacity of 1 million clones a year. East Sepik has the ability to produce 6 million clones right now as I sit and talk to you.
This afternoon, National Planning Minister Richard Maru called a media conference in regards to the EU grant funding, basically to comment on the reasons behind the delay in the drawdown of the funding to East Sepik province. According to Minister Maru, he had been bound by the protocol to not discuss issues relating to the grant funding as negotiations had not been completed until this week. Negotiations which included getting the final approval from the European Commissioner for International Cooperation and Development, Neven Mimica, in Brussels.
So we have been negotiating with the EU, initially through the office of the ambassador here in Port Moresby, and when we didn't have any success, I was advised rightly by our ambassador in Brussels to go and meet the Minister for Development Cooperation of the EU, who is my counterpart in EU, in Samoa. When we had the EU ACP meetings in Samoa, I went personally there to Samoa and met him and appealed to him that the PNG government wanted a change in the scope of the proposed EU rural intervention program.
Whilst the go-ahead given by the EU now brings the drawdown of the funding one step closer, the grant funding agreement has been amended slightly with two key changes made, which Minister Maru explained.
The changes we wanted was, firstly, we wanted the 4 Momase provinces to be included in the areas that will benefit from the 340 million that the EU was offering under this project. The second change we wanted in the scope was that we wanted rural roads, economic roads or commodity roads or economic roads to be included in the scope of the project, because our policy says 50% of all funding must be for infrastructure.
Given the completion of negotiations and approval from the EU, the agreement will now be signed next week in Port Moresby, well before the deadline of June the 30th. Following this, the Department of National Planning will be working with the European Union and the Food and Agriculture Organization, the implementing agency, to carry out the scoping and design to determine actions and activities. The Minister also clarifying that the role of provincial government actors would also be established during this phase, an activity that could take up to 12 months.
The detailed scoping will be led by my department. We'll have the Cocoa Board, we'll have the Spice Board, and it's the public servants and the provinces, governors and administrations will sit down and work on the scoping. The political head doesn't get down to that level. We negotiate and we sign it by level, and then it's up to the secretary and his team to work with all the other stakeholders and the governors and the provinces to work on the scoping of the project.
Mary Batulo, National MTV News.